After the serve has been returned, right? You announce fault, receiver fault, and state point for the serving team. So it's quite easy. The difference is on the serve, as soon as the ball is struck by the wrong server, you immediately call fault, incorrect server, or incorrect court. On the receiver, especially when you have teams that are stacking, and if we know what stacking is, we have two people that are standing within the same court on the
Video
other side,
stopped.
same
Can't
side of
hear.
the court. So they might be on the even court, they might be on the odd court, and you got two people standing there. They can stand anywhere they want. So you can't deal with that. All you have to watch is the band. So we'll talk about dealing with stacking in a minute. But as it happens, as long as they're over there, so you yell fault as soon as the wrong person returns that ball after making contact with the ball, not beforehand. Sorry, somebody was going to say something there? Nope. Okay, we'll go on.
I had a question. When you were talking about stacking, if the person was stacked up to serve and then realized he's serving from the wrong side, if he steps over it back onto the right side and serves the ball, like how are you going to stop the, because in between the call of the score and the actual move to serve, he's got 10 seconds and he could just step over the line, maybe 2 feet, and then serve to the right court.
You can't allow that because they're now changing their position to serve. The other team is not properly aligned. So that's when you would step in with both hands above your head.
Okay.
And call time. All right. So in the wrong receiver, it's quite easy. Again, you just call a service fault or receiver fault and point or second server. Incorrect receiver, what's what you say, or the wrong server. Beginning service motion before the complete score is called. This is a pretty common one. Call service fault, followed by second server or side out. So you're ready. You know what we're going here. What we're doing is just immediately, you're going 4-3, and all of a sudden the ball's hit. And you immediately go fault, second server, or side out. So you're watching for that as things are happening. And that's why, again, when we talked yesterday or last week, we talked about look at the receivers. If they're in position, look at the server. Know the score. You got the people in the right place. Call the score. 4-3-2. And you go 4-3, and that ball gets hit. You immediately go fault, side out. I said 4-3-2, so it would be side out. Okay? So you have to have on the tip of your tongue knowing what's going to happen before it happens, so that you can call it right away. Could deviation in your cadence have contributed to this fault? That's something that you have to ask yourself. And if you say, yes, I might have been the problem to that, you immediately, again, raise your hands. Referee error, I'll recall the score. Okay, so if you normally go 4-3-2, no problem. And if you go 4-3-2, and I looked down at my scorecard to see where the peg was, and it took that little bit of a pause, and they served, I would give them a bit of a reprieve on that one and call for a referee error and a replay. Call foot fault immediately upon any violation that happens when they're serving. So if they step over the line when they're making contact with the ball, or they're outside of the service boundary boxes with the middle line and the sideline, if they're outside of that at the time making contact with the ball, that is a foot fault and should be called. Do not elaborate. Do not debate. There's no debate out there. You made a call. You saw it. Bang. And if you say it with conviction, you say it loudly, you say it clearly, there's usually not an argument. Mind you, I've had a few people, they look and go, I didn't touch it, and say, by that much, you were over the line. Primary responsibility during the following any volley, that is. This is a non-volley zone violation, and we talked about that one last week. This is your primary area of responsibility. If something happens in that non-volley zone that you don't see, it's shame on you, right? There's no excuses. You need to own it. You need to know what's going on in that box. And that's why, again, I was saying that the latest thing out of USAPA is instead of going down and moving your head from side to side as we're watching that ball moving, that I wanted to show when I was getting certified, I wanted to show my evaluator, I'm watching the ball, right? I'm doing this, I'm watching the ball. They don't want you doing that anymore. What they're suggesting is that you can see a lot more with your peripheral vision. So you're standing directly behind that the center post, the net post, about 4 feet. And all you do is use your peripheral vision and maybe your eyes, move your eyes back and forth. And that's all you're going to do. So your head shouldn't be moving at all. That's something to practice. And that's going to take a bit of practice. The hardest thing for referees to really learn is not to be tracking the ball, right? You're not watching the ball. You're watching the movement in the non-volley zone. You're watching the feet. So if I'm watching the feet and this person smashes that ball, I am not looking to where it's going, that it might go out of bounds. I'm not worried about that line call. I have lines people in a medal match, or I have players that are going to make that call. My job is the non-volley zone, and I'm going to make sure that I am staying in the non-volley zone with my full attention. Any questions on that? Again, make a note of that because it's something that you have to test yourself for and make sure you practice, because does not come naturally. That's something that you have to work at. Non-volley zone includes the player's momentum. Well, it certainly does. That's what it's all about. If you've got somebody that is moving from the baseline to that non-volley zone and a ball is coming at them, they're going to probably hit that ball in the air, and they have to arrest that momentum prior to the non-volley zone line. They have to control it. Anything the player is wearing or carrying or contacting touches the non-volley zone after making a volley is a fault. I think we all know that. So if you swing, you got both feet in the court, and you swing at a ball, and you make a nice shot down the middle, and your sunglasses fall off, your hat falls off, your paddle comes out of your hand and lands on the line of the non-volley zone or in the non-volley zone, it's a fault against you. Second server, side out. You call fault immediately. And again, when you're making the call, you don't go fault like it's a question. You're going to make fault. They know by the tone of your voice and the speed in which it's given that an infraction has occurred, and they're not going to argue with it. Referee error. Again, we've pretty much talked about this a couple of times. When calling the wrong score, ideally halt play before the return of serve and announce the referee error. Call correct score and have a replay. So again, you just throw your hands up there and admit referee error. I'll recall the score, please. If error is not recognized before the return of serve, allow the point to be played out before announcing the correction. So this is a difficult one. At what point do you stop? So if you immediately recognize there is a referee error before the return of the shot, just make sure, because you don't know how much it's already interfered with the person that's about to receive it, right? They're about to hit it, and they're thinking in their mind, well, there's something wrong going on here. So you immediately call referee error, replay. If what they're saying here, the ball has been already hit by the server and returned by the receiver, and nobody's really picked up that you called 4-3-2 instead of 4-3-1. Nobody's really picked it up. There doesn't seem to be anything wrong. Allow the point to be played out.
What if,
not worry about stopping them at that point. It's probably passed.
what if somebody realizes it 2-3 volleys in, or it's been on my mind going, something is wrong here, but I'm
Too
not
late. Too late at that point to deal with. They have until the return of volley to make it. We'll deal with that rule, I think, coming up. That actually gets more explicit about what the point of time that you can change and stop that call. Okay, so there's point in times. That actually, I'll give you a little bit of a hint. That's a new rule that's coming out for 2021 in January. And that point of time is really what USAPA is looking at and trying to be more consistent with that point in time. Non-volley zone foot fault called on a bounce ball. Stop and play immediately and announce the referee error and a replay. Right? Happens periodically. They're 40 shots in and they're doing a lot of dinking back and forth. The ball's bouncing and all of a sudden you go fault because their foot's in the court and they hit a ball, but the ball bounced. It wasn't in the air. So there's no fault. So again, all you can do is apologize, referee error, replay please. Player readiness. Following dead balls, players are expected to move to the respective positions without delay. All right, that's your expectation as the referee, especially of the receiving team. And I keep on harping on this one. The serving team, as far as I'm concerned, has the ability to control the pace of the game. The receiving team does not. And who is the one that's going to be dragging their behinds a bit if they're losing? They're trying to stop and slow the momentum of the game from the serving team without calling a timeout. So this is a strategy I've seen happen many, many times. So you as the referee have to be on it and have to be consistent. And you have to allow them the time to normally get from A to B. No problem with that at all. But you in your mind have to know how long that's normally taken. And if you get somebody that now is, moping back into position, simply call the score. The serving team has got the ball in hand. They're maybe not ready as the receiving team, but they should have been ready. You make that determination. You deem that they should have been in position. You then therefore have the ability to call the score. Now, what I'd like you to think of, that it might be more fair to say to somebody, if you're not going to move more quickly back into position, I'm going to be calling the score right away. So you can give them a little bit of a warning. But that's up to you, because that could be looked at as being a bit of coaching. So this is one that we have to play, because again, we're moving away from the referees doing anything that can be viewed as coaching and helping the other teams. Right? But again, you want to maybe be fair and consistent. And so you could apply that and say, please move more quickly into position. That's if you got somebody that's slowing it up, dragging on purpose. And you know that because you've seen them move the rest of the game very much more quickly than what they're doing right now. And they're just trying to slow it down. Call score when the receiver is ready and the server is in position. Right? So again, check the receiver, check the server, stay with the server, call the score after you know that the bands are in the correct position. But you should already know that before you check the receiver, right? So you mark the score from the previous point. You know right away that it's 2 even. The score is 4-2-2. So you know that I have an even player against an even player. So I've got the band in the even court. So all you got to worry about, check the receiver, check the server, stay with the server, call the score. And if they call a timeout, you're watching that. Has service motion started? Yes or no? Make your determination. So again, you hear me keep on harping about that routine and how to do this. Allow the receiver reasonable time to become ready. Yes, must have reasonable time. If delaying, call the score when the receiver should be ready and begin the 10-second count. And don't forget, well, it's nothing in best practices, but I start chopping at about 7 or 8, or about 7. So in my head, I'm already counting. We're waiting, we're waiting, we're waiting, we're waiting. 7, 8, 9. I don't call it out. I'm not outwardly counting. My chop is my count. And they know that that's what I'm doing. That's my pendulum. What do they call it for a piano? Metronome, is it?
Metronome.
Yeah, that's it.
Al, do you face somebody in particular when you're calling the score?
Yeah, good question. No, I try to face more forward unless I have a hearing impaired person, and then I'm going to be looking at them. But again, you want to project to both, so I'm trying to look sort of straightforward. I might just turn slightly when I'm saying 4-2-2. But yeah, more or less straightforward. I don't have a problem with volume, as you can probably tell. People hear me loud and clear. And I know that's something that you have to work at, because you don't want to be not heard out there. You want to have that commanding voice, and that really helps me out. And I've seen that happen so many times. I make a call, it sticks.
Al, any suggestions about if you're refereeing a match where there are both francophone and anglophones, and I'm pretty much an anglophone. I can count to 10 in French, but maybe 11. But in terms of communication with, say, a non-English speaking person.
No, I've never had that question. Of course, doing most of my refereeing in the US, that's not an issue. But it's based on English being the language, and that's all we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had that problem in Kingston at the last national.
Well, I think
it caused me a bit of a problem some of the time.
Yeah, I don't know how
Anyway,
PCO
okay,
would like to address that one, because of course we do have 2 official languages, but I think the game is based on English, and it's like air traffic control. It's all going to be in English.
Okay.
All right, so stacking. Stacking right away, it throws a referee, especially new referees. They go, oh my God, my worst nightmare. What am I going to do? How am I going to handle this? It's easy. Again, you know the score. It's 4-2-2. What are we looking for?
Armbands,
Armbands. And what court are they in?
right?
No, even.
Even, yeah.
Right? So they're both in the even court. We're good to go. Unfortunately, with the stacker, we've got the non-armband in there as well, whether they're serving or they're receiving. It could be both. So all 4 players are in the even court. Is that a problem? No.
No.
The person with the ball's got an armband on. We assume he's going to hit the ball. We don't know for sure, but as the referee, they've got the ball, they're ready. Look away from them. You're now looking at the receiving team. Now they wouldn't normally, receiving team's not going to be stacking in the same receiving court. They're going to do it 2 ways. They're going to have somebody in the normal position as the receiver, and they're going to do hand signals, which means they're probably going to switch over at some point, or they're going to maybe have somebody outside the court on the same side as the receiver. And that means that when that receiver actually strikes the ball, they're going to slide over to the far court, the odd court. So that's what's going to happen. So but that's not your concern. All, again, you're watching for is that I have the 4-2-2. I have the server is going to hit the ball with the band to the person with the band on the other court that has to hit it. If anything else happens, it's a fault. If somebody else touches that ball first. So it's that simple. You just watch the band. You're not worried about the non-band player at that point. When the score obviously is 4-3-2, so we have a band hitting to the non-band. So we just want to make sure that the person who is the receiver, who's returning that next shot, has got no band on and makes a good shot. All we got to do. Now, well, let's just go on here. Based on the score. Okay, so concentrate on the proper server and receiver based on the score, which we've just talked about, the starting server identification, the band, which is visible at all times, and the serving clip that you have on your clipboard. So again, before you've looked up, you know whether that's over the circled person who is the starting server for that team. And if that score is even, then that starting player is going to be the server on the even court, which is the right-hand court. And the same is true of the receiver on the other side of the court based on their score where they should be standing. That is key. If you have any problems understanding that one, that's something that you really have to zone in on. And that has to be second nature. You have to understand that and get it right all the time. And what I can suggest for you is that you actually go on, pull up a gold medal match and get your clipboard out. And I did this quite a bit. I refereed the game and would put it on pause, make my call and turn it on. And today you're not hearing the referee as much as you used to because they have commentators, especially in the medal matches. But you would, in the old matches, you could hear the referee make the call. So I would make mine first. I would annotate my scorecard, and then I would listen to what the referee said to see if I got it right. So you emulate it and do it online is a way of doing it. So any questions and discussions regarding any play? You keep both sides equally informed. So it can be very, very simple. People can be on, you know, at the baselines of their courts. And if somebody says, ref, weren't they the second server already? They've already had 2 serves. It should be side out. And you just make sure that you're talking to both sides and don't, especially if you call them to the net or they come to you at your position, that one team comes to you, you might want to signal a person from the other team in to hear what's being said, to make sure that they're, again, it's all above board and there's no bias going on. When it's more definite of a situation or one that is more controversial, as I say, I call them to my office, which is at the center of the net, right? And the idea of that is that we're putting the people there to avoid invite players from both teams to avoid the perception of one team gaining an advantage. But why we're doing that is we're getting away from the referees on other adjacent courts and any spectators that are out there listening. That's not there, maybe not for their ears. You want to have it in here so that we can deal with the problem between the 4 players and yourself and straighten it out again. Being a facilitator, not a dictator, and see if we can work it out to their advantage as long as they're not breaking any rules. They may decide on a course of action that you weren't necessarily going down, that you saw it happening somewhere else. But if it's not rules-based and they're happy to play a let, and then we can do that. Okay? If discussion becomes intense or continues too long, cut it off. All right? Send all parties back into their get ready plays. Players be ready, and give the 15-second warning and call resume play and announce the score. We had a situation just recently that went around, and the USAPA sent a little note around, and it had one of the APP games that just went on, and one of the players gave the other player the finger. And what we were specifically watching was how well the referee handled the situation. And he says that he handled that situation as well as he did because he had already pre-thought of this if it were to have happened on one of his courts at some time. So he immediately diffused the situation and got them turned around in as less time than normal when a dispute is going on. And it was quite funny because how he did it was the finger was given and the other player started, you know, ref, did you see that? And started to handle it. And the ref had already said technical warning. And then they were coming over to take a sip of water or something. And the referee simply said, resume play, 4-3-2. And boy, the player turned around and was on the court in a split second to receive the ball because there was no timeout called. He'd already dealt with it. Technical warning had been given. Now, we're going to get into technicals a little bit later. One of the things he didn't do on that was fairly obvious, he did not have time to annotate his scorecard as to what the problem was. So he had to retain that in his mind and do that before he handed that score sheet in. But again, it was commendable because that could have been quite the little delay. And how many times have we seen that happen at nationals and some of the bigger tournaments now where there is a big controversy, the referee doesn't handle it as quickly, and all of a sudden we're 3, we're 4, for 5 minutes of delay before we get going in a match. That's not good.